National Jelly Roll Day sew along video 11, and this is how I hand stitch my binding down. First, I flip over the quilt on my ironing table and I flip the binding over from the front where we just stitched it, and I press it down, and then when I get to the corners, I press the side that I'm on at that 45-degree angle. Again, this is where that tip comes in from the previous video of sewing that diagonal line from to the corner to the end, and then you fold down the other side. See how easy that was? Don't be scared. I promise you've got this. And then you press that down again. So do that around the entire quilt. Oh, I just love it. Look at it. Oh, so pretty. And on the other side, see how perfect that comes out? That tip really helps. And if yours doesn't look as good as this one, don't worry about it. You're great. Keep going. These are my favorite needles that I use. If you need to pause so you can see it a little better, go for it. And then I'm using a contrasting thread. It's a bright teal, matches my nails that are overgrown. Just ignore it. They're going to get done soon, I promise. And this is the type I'm using. It's an R-fill. And I use a quilter's knot at the end, and then going through the backing only and like an inch or so down, depending on how long your needle is. You start through the backing only and bring your needle right up to the edge of the binding where it's folded over. But you can see, do not go through the front. Otherwise, you'll see the thread and a big long stitch through the front and you'll be bummed. But see where I'm coming in, just right at the edge of that folded strip, and pull it through, and then pull it not too hard so you don't break your thread, but pull it through the backing and you won't see it at all. Now you're going to go through the folded edge, and I like to do my stitches about 1/4 of an inch. Keeps it pretty consistent that way, but don't worry too much about the measurements between your stitches. Just do whatever is comfortable, but you don't want them too spread apart because then your binding won't be on super well. So again, 1/4 of an inch just through that folded part of the binding, the folded edge, and then bring it through. And then going through the backing only, not the binding, the backing only, about 1/4 of an inch, I bring it through. And then again, bring it up through the folded edge of the binding, pull it through, and then bring it through the backing only 1/4 of an inch and pull it through. And just repeat that. Hopefully you can see that well, but you bring it through right now, the folded edge of the binding about 1/4 of an inch, and then you bring it through the backing about 1/4 of an inch. Again, you're never sewing through the top of your quilt. Otherwise, you'll see stitching on the other side. And this is just the way I do it when I'm hand stitching. There's lots of different ways. You can do decorative stitches. You can machine stitch this down. I'm not giving a tutorial on that today. I can do that a different day because I wanted to hand stitch this. I love it. Plus, I don't know about y'all, but hand stitching the binding is relaxing to me. Right now, just with this little bit I'm doing it at my table with the light and the camera and the tripod, but if I'm hand stitching, I love sitting on my couch or a comfortable chair. I can do it outside. I've pretty much hand bound a quilt or project at every sports stadium that you can think of. I've done it at baseball games, football games, you name it. And then I'll slow it down again when you get to the corner. So you bring it through the folded edge of the binding, and then you go through the backing only, but before you bring it back up, I'm going to show you where to go. So going through the backing and then slowly going up, see, backing only, slowly going up through the binding, you're going to bring it about 1/4 of an inch up on the folded piece of the corner. And I think you can see it okay. So through the backing, through the binding, but through the binding, bringing it through that folded edge so that it hides your stitch. And then to tack it down, you bring it through the bottom, well, the top of the bottom strip. You bring it through the strip, whole strip, and then through the backing, and then you bring it up through the corner folded part of the binding. It's a little, I hope that makes sense. I hope you can visually see it. I'm not sure if I'm wording that correctly, but you bring it through that folded part on the corner. Like, so you bring it, okay, tip of the needle, binding underneath, and then through the backing only, but up through the folded part of the top binding strip. Okay, I think that makes more sense. I'm doing this in real time just so y'all can see it as well as possible. And then so your thread is coming out of that folded part of the corner of the top strip, and then you go through the backing only 1/4 of an inch, bring it through, and then you start over again. So now you go through the folded part about 1/4 of an inch on the binding, bring it through, and then you go through the backing again, 1/4 of an inch, bring it through, and then continue around your whole quilt. I hope I did that slow enough so it makes sense, but look at how pretty those corners look. I'm telling you that simple trick of stitching from so I'm using 1/4 of an inch as my seam. So you stop 1/4 of an inch from the end of your binding corner when you're machine stitching it down, and then sewing diagonally to the end. It really, really, really helps. I promise you, try it. And if you try it, tag me and let me know if it helped, or comment on this video, whatever. Message me, whatevs. I want to know. When you get to a stopping point because you're running out of thread, make sure you end with it being in the binding strip. So your last stitch needs to be the one through the binding, and then you bring your needle to the end of through the backing from where you just stitched through the binding. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope so. I hope you can see it better. But so again, where you stopped, you go a little bit to the right side of it and bring it through the backing and then up through the binding, right where your thread comes out, and then don't pull it all the way through, make a loop, pull it through so it knots, and then where you just came out, where that thread is coming out, go through the same hole and do the same thing. Take your entire needle length, or like an inch, whatever you feel comfortable with, bring it out through the backing only, and then using a quilter's knot, which I'll show you, you take your needle in one hand. So I'm right-handed, so I keep it in my right hand, and then I take my left hand, wrap it around 3 times, and pull it all the way through from your needle to where your backing fabric is. And that is called a quilter's knot. Try it. It's wonderful. I use it all the time. And then you take your tip of your needle and bring it through the hole where your thread is at, right next to the knot. And then again, take your needle some length and pull it through all the way, and then you just hid your knot. See, that wasn't so hard. I knew you could do it. And then you trim your thread close to the fabric so you don't see it. And I love using smaller curved edge scissors so that way I don't accidentally cut my fabric. Come back tomorrow for the entire quilt reveal, and I'll let you know where you can find the pattern, the entire pattern step by step, so you don't have to rewatch all these videos unless you need my tips. And I'll let you know the name of the quilt. See y'all tomorrow.